My name is Catlyn Origitano, and I am the Senior Content Marketing Manager at Sojern. I have been working at Sojern for about a year and a half, and one of the things I really love about my job is that I get to work with thousands of independent hotels and travel marketers to really talk about marketing campaigns and the different types of strategies that are out there to help drive direct bookings. So that's something that we're going to do today, that we're going to dive into, is programmatic advertising, how this unique type of advertising can be and is being used by hotels to drive direct bookings. So first I want to give a little bit of background very briefly about what Sojern is and what we do, because it really, I think, helps set the stage for why this type of advertising is around and is popular. So Sojern is travel's direct demand engine, and we work with, like I said, thousands of independent hotels to help drive direct bookings. But we didn't always do this. So we started in the travel space about 10 years ago, and we did boarding pass ads. If you remember back in the day when you would print out your boarding pass, you would see ads for like a place to eat or a car to rent once you got there. And the idea being that if that person was at that destination, they'll have other things that they want to do, and this was a way that we could advertise to them. So we don't do boarding passes anymore, right? Most people use the mobile apps now for boarding passes. And that's really sort of how we evolved, is we realized doing this that we had all of this really great data that we were sitting on. And because in order for us to know, let's say someone was going to a destination, we had to have data around that. And we knew that boarding passes weren't necessarily going to be the wave of the future. So how can you turn all this data where you know where travelers are going to go or want to go and use it for the future of advertising, right? And that's really where programmatic comes in. So before we get too much into programmatic, I want to ask you guys a question. So we're going to do a quick poll, and I want to find out from you how well you feel like you understand what programmatic advertising is. So my lovely assistant Scott is going to launch a poll for you guys to answer. The votes are being tallied in real time, just like we'll see programmatic does. I'll give you a few more seconds to get those answers in. Yeah, okay, so let's take a look at what you guys all said. So 10% of people feel like they know it like the back of their hand. Well, that's awesome. That's very exciting. A third, 33%, say you're fairly familiar. I think that's where a lot of people sit, and that makes sense. And 40% say you're familiar with the term, but that's about it. So I think that's going to be, we have 17% having no idea what I'm talking about. Well, you 17%, I'm so glad you joined, despite the fact that maybe you don't know what we're going to talk about today. But I really think that that is very indicative of the industry, especially the travel and the hotel industry, to maybe be generally familiar but not know the ins and outs. So what we really hope to get to today is everybody who is, I'm familiar, or I'm familiar with the term, and definitely people who have no idea what we're talking about, to get you guys all up to speed and dig into some questions that you might have, and some of the really basics, but also how those basics turn into direct bookings and how all of it operates for hoteliers and on the back end as well. So as I mentioned before, right, a lot of Sojern's evolution as a company came from and comes from the evolution of travel planning, and of travel marketing. And so what I want to sort of give us is a bit of context for why travel marketing has evolved. And a lot of it has to do with travelers and travel planning. So back in the day, right, when people first started to, or were first looking at travel, they had a very, what we call like a linear path to purchase. So I wanted to go on a vacation somewhere, I would contact a travel agent. I'd go to their office, or I'd call them and I'd tell them what I wanted to do, and they would deal and do all the bookings and deal with it directly. Or you might call a brand up, you might go straight to a hotel website, right, and book through there. Either way, it's very linear. It's just going from one person straight to the brand, or maybe having one intermediary. And that really matched the way that marketing was done. Because if you only have a very few number of touch points and a very linear path, then you don't need to have a really robust marketing, or really multi-touch marketing. And so you might do something like oh, I think that my travelers are really going to be on this one website or these two websites, so I'm just going to buy ad space on that one website, knowing that my traveler goes there, right? This is very similar to the billboard effect. I'm just going to put, ads on a billboard along a highway, and I hope or I assume that that's where the people that I want to reach go. So this can be sometimes referred to as like the spray and pray approach, right? I'm just going to try and hit, as many people as I can and hope that one of them or a few of them are the people that I want to reach and the people that will convert. And that, again, matched up when you have a very linear path. But what we see more and more is that that path is not linear. So this is just one example of a path to purchase project we're working on, where we can follow travelers throughout their path to purchase. And we have one person planning a theme park vacation, and they have 451 travel touch points across 5 months. And 111 of those touch points are hotel searches. So now travelers are going on social media, they're going on OTAs, they're going on review websites, they're going on direct pages, right? They're hitting so many different websites over the course of an extended period of time that the traveler path to purchase has gotten really complex and not as linear. And this is where advertising sort of responds, right? As travel planning changes, so too must advertising. And so advertising now, I really like this GIF because I feel like it sums up sometimes just how complex or ridiculous advertising seems now. You're supposed to be on every channel doing everything all at once, and that can feel really overwhelming. But it's really just this response to travelers being on all of these channels all at once. So what happens is now you're expected to be on every channel or on the channel where travelers are when they're searching with the right message on the right device. So you're supposed to be on Facebook, you're supposed to be on Google, you're supposed to be CNN, wherever the traveler goes. And more, what we're seeing is the more effective campaigns and the better reach that you have, it's about reaching that traveler, reaching that potential guest with the right message at the right time. It's not just, gosh, I hope that this is a traveler. I'm going to buy ads on this website and hope that my traveler's there. So it's less about the website and finding the right website, and it's more about finding the right traveler. And wherever that traveler goes, you and your message will be there. And that is really where programmatic starts to emerge, and where the idea of programmatic is. So that's sort of like, if you will, the history of what brought us to where we are today. So now, right, with programmatic, it's about having the right message with the right format to the right traveler at the right time. And we're going to get through some examples to help make that clear, because that could still feel kind of abstract, like how do you do that and what does that look like? We've got examples, and we'll take a look at exactly how that works on the sort of computer side of it, and then how it also works for a hotelier, for example. So, okay, very basically, how does programmatic advertising work? I'm just going to minimize this. Okay, cool. So the first thing that we do that programmatic advertisement does is identify an audience. So what does that mean? If you, for instance, have gone and tried to buy a pair of shoes, and you've typed in and you've gone to a website and you're like looking for shoes, or for a traveler, right, you are looking for a flight, a car, a cruise, whatever it is. That is how we would identify an audience, someone who is interested in making a purchase within the travel industry. And that can be, you can identify a traveler and an audience in a variety of different ways. They hit a website, they conduct a search, they hit multiple websites, right? There's a lot of different ways to identify an audience, but initially what we're looking for is someone who's expressed intent in making a purchase. And again, that intent can be expressed searches, website hits, a lot of different things. Then, once we've identified an audience, and the next thing we want to do is, let's say Joe Schmo has gone to your website and taken a look at you, and then Joe leaves, right? Joe goes to other websites. He goes to CNN, he goes to Facebook, Joe's all over the place. So then when Joe hits another website, let's say one not related to you, what's happening in real time, this is where the phrase real-time bidding comes in. What's happening in real time is many people, many machines really, are bidding to serve Joe an ad. So you know when you hit a website and sometimes it can be kind of slow loading, and then you get on that website and there's a lot of ads? So what's happening, what's sort of slowing that loading is there's bidding going on in milliseconds to serve Joe an ad. So we might be wanting to serve Joe an ad for your hotel, and another company wants to serve Joe an ad for those shoes he saw, right? He's expressed different intent signals. And we all have these bidding algorithms to try and get in front of Joe in a way that is cost effective and will have Joe convert. So that's the bidding on the inventory that's happening in real time. And that's why you can get an ad to Joe wherever he is, as opposed to just buying inventory always on one place. And then if we win the bid, then we serve Joe an ad. And that ad is placed in front of Joe in what is usually called a display or banner ad. And we'll take a look at some examples of what that looks like. So that is really very basically what programmatic is: identifying a user who has an intent to purchase something, bidding on serving that person an ad, and then if you win the bid, getting your ad in front of somebody. That is programmatic at its core. But how exactly does that work, okay? So this is, I think, where people get, okay, that feels maybe a bit like magic, like how exactly does it work when you do it? So I'm going to give you as clear a explanation as possible without getting too into the nitty-gritty. But essentially there's two things happening that makes programmatic work. There are what's called cookies and what is called a pixel. So cookies are a piece of code that your website puts on your browser. So let's say you go to a website and you'll see, like, just so you know, we use cookies, right? What that means is they're putting on your browser a little bit of code so that when you go to other websites, they're able to follow you and identify that code elsewhere, right? So that's how they're able to say, oh, hey, like that person already looked for this hotel, so serving them a hotel ad would be really great. The thing that sort of identifies that is the pixel, right? The pixel gets placed, for instance, on your page and on a lot of other pages around the internet, and that is a virtually invisible image on a website that can read and record the cookie. So pixels will fire when it sees cookies elsewhere. So it's these two things talking in the background on all your computers, on the browsers that let people know what's going on. So one really simple example of this is YouTube has a setting that allows them to remember your username and volume preferences, so that when you go back to their website and look at another video, for instance, that is already set in. If you erase your cookies, that will go away. So that's really how programmatic does the heavy lifting of the bidding, of the identifying, is through cookies and pixels. So we've got the history sort of programmatic. We've got at the big picture what programmatic is with this inventory and this bidding, and we've even got the mechanics. What are the things doing the bidding and things like that? But I think we need to go a little bit further and talk about how this technology can really drive direct bookings, right? So that is what is programmatic. And the second half is, well, how do you use programmatic to drive bookings? Because I think that is obviously a very important part of any hotelier's day. And so I think it's really important, one way to think through this is to think through, as we started off with, the traveler path to purchase. Or here we're going to talk about it through the marketing funnel, where travelers discover and are inspired, and then move all the way down to the booking. And what we're going to talk about is the very practical way in which programmatic can reach and engage people at different parts of the funnel, at different parts of their path to purchase, to be inspired to book and search and things like that. And we're going to go through some specific client examples so you can see what a display ad looks like and how it can help all of these different places. So I think this will be a good way to take some of that history and even some of the very practicals and see how it lives every day in the hotel funnel. So at the what we call the high funnel, that's where we're going to start. The high funnel traveler. So who is he? What is he or she doing? So this is the person who's looking to be inspired. So this person may know, hey, I want to go on spring break, not quite sure where, not quite sure when, sometime in spring. And so they really they're not doing a lot of heavy searches. They're not maybe necessarily comparing different price points. They're looking to be inspired. They've just started their travel search. So why is this person a challenge for travel marketers and for hoteliers? Well, one of the main reasons is that many people up in the funnel don't know what they want to do yet. So Henry Hardevelt, who is a travel analyst and advisor, through his research has found out that 1 in 5 travelers don't know where they want to go when they start searching for a vacation destination. So all of this uncertainty can lead to difficulties maybe breaking through or getting your property into these the travel planning or of these high funnel potential guests. So this is where programmatic, and we'll talk about specific examples where programmatic both works really well and also, I think this is really important, complements other types of advertising that hoteliers do. So the first way that this happens, that programmatic can help with high funnel travelers, is through what's called prospecting. So prospecting is a type of programmatic where you use the identify audience, bid, and serve ads to do a very specific task, that is to prospect. So how does this work? Step one is that you identify a user that appears to be in market for a hotel through first and or third-party data. Later, the visitor surfs other sites and sees your ads. Inspired and engaged, potential travelers come to your site to book. So what happens with prospecting is we go out and find people who maybe have not yet heard of your brand or who have not yet visited your website. We'll get to those who visited your website. That's a different type of programmatic, or different form, really. But this is when, remember when we did the 3 things that go into programmatic: identify your audience, bid on inventory, serve ads. The difference here is the identify your audience. So we're identifying your audience based on somebody who's in market for your hotel, but maybe doesn't know who you are, right? Is still just starting off on that searches. So they've maybe done they've maybe done a flight search or a car search, and because we have really unique data partnerships with a lot of large travel companies, we're able to see when people are doing these searches. So let's say we saw someone search for a flight to Arizona, and you have a property in Arizona, right? We could prospect to that person, serving them ads. Again, through that programmatic. So that's where you can help find and as people start to plan and inspire them to book with your hotel. So here's an example of a banner ad. So a banner ad, it looks like a banner, right, that you'd hold up at a party or something like that. It can come in, we'll look at a few different examples, but this is one example we did for Banyan Tree Mayakoba. So here it appears on a website. Again, we don't just pick websites to serve ads, we follow the traveler. And here this traveler, for instance, was taking a look at the most romantic hotels in the Caribbean. And here we have a really great, an ad that sort of matches that content, that if someone is searching here for these types of things, they are likely to be inspired by this ad. And we have a great promo on it, and a call to action to book now. So this ad will follow the traveler in their planning and inspire them to learn more and book with Banyan Tree Mayakoba. So I mentioned this, the other thing that's really important that programmatic can do really well is it can complement other types of advertising, and in particular search. So I think all hoteliers know that search is wildly popular and a very difficult thing to do. But the fact remains 67% of all hotel searches start on Google, right? And so people are starting there, and I know that the travel industry and hoteliers in particular are putting lots of time and money behind what's called PPC, or what we call search engine marketing. And what we found, though, is that display and search together can really create a complementary package. Because what happens is, let's say we've inspired people at the top of the funnel with ads to learn more about you. They see that ad and they're like, oh yeah, maybe I'll go look and see what they have. And they go into a search engine like Google and they type in to find out more about you. And the first few ads are for a third party, right, who are bidding on your brand names. Then what you've done is you've inspired them to look more and book with you, but now they're being driven to a third party to book there. So this is why it's really, I think, important to think about how programmatic can fit into and can complement a large advertising strategy. So it's really important that you have a strong search strategy. And again, I'm going to show you an example. So we have helped run SEM for Banyan Tree Mayakoba. So you can see that they, because we're running their SEM for them, they are on the top placement right below a third party trying to bid on the same brand name. So again, if you have these two, if you have display and SEM running at the same time, it's a real, I like to call it a wombo combo, I think is the technical term for what that can do together. And then I just want to sort of highlight how successful or how cool it's been the way that we've run these two with Banyan Tree, as I mentioned. So doing this SEM with this display, we have driven 140 direct bookings and delivered $560,000 in just in additional revenue or in revenue in the first 5 months. So it actually is really a powerful way to drive direct bookings, because what you're doing is you're displaying your property and you're driving people to book directly with you rather than having a third party or having those bookings go to a third party. So it really is driving direct bookings for our hotel clients. Okay. Let's move down the funnel, middle of the funnel. So this poses a whole different challenge. There's different things going on in the middle of the funnel. So at the top right, dreaming, ready to be inspired, not sure what they want to do. The middle of the funnel is the person or the group of people, the time in the traveler path to purchase, where they have an idea of what they want to do, but they are maybe stuck in what the kids call FOMO, or fear of missing out, right? This is when they're doing tons and tons of hotel searches. Do I have the right price? Is this really the dates I want to go to? Am I just, and second guessing or checking over and over again, comparing reviews and OTA prices and your prices and looking at your social media, and they're in the thick of it. So this is a real challenge to reach and advertise to, because they are bouncing from website to website and they're all over the place. So again, I think this is where programmatic advertising can be really effective. Why? Because we know that 92% of first-time visitors to a website do not intend to make a purchase. So the first time someone might be hitting your website, they're trying to figure out, oh, what kind of brunch do you have? What does that king-size room look like? What are the prices in comparison to all of the others? So what you want to do is, okay, you've got someone who has shown some intent, and what you want to do is make sure that throughout all of their other searches, your offering is staying top of mind, that they continue to see you and think about you as they move through this middle of the funnel. And this is where retargeting comes in. So what happens with retargeting, again, it's that programmatic, identify an audience, bid, serve an ad. And it's really that identify the audience part that changes, or that's the difference between prospecting and retargeting. So in retargeting, a visitor lands on your site and shops. Maybe they look around, they hit a few pages, they do a search, and then they leave. And later the visitor goes to other sites. They go to Facebook, they go CNN.com, right? We mentioned anywhere on the internet. And what we do is we serve an ad that's customized to their interests, so for your property. And then what the idea is that this person is then re-engaged with your relevant offer. We saw, for instance, the Banyan Tree had a great promo, and they're reminded of that as they search elsewhere, and that brings them back to your website to book directly with you. So again, the difference here between the prospecting and retargeting is the way that they identify an audience. And retargeting picks the audience or identifies it as someone who has visited you, and then they bring them back to you. So again, let's take a look at what this could look like, or what this does look like. So here we have an ad for Flamingo Beach Resort and Spa, and you can see this is on an HD TV. Someone's going to look at, want to watch a show or get some DIY ideas, not related to travel, but we keep that travel planning that they have in mind, right, with a great promo perfect for family travel, so that it's always top of mind as they continue to search and go about their day on the internet. And again, just taking from the hotel manager at Flamingo Beach and Spa, so we drove 49 direct bookings in the first 3 months. And I think what's really cool, I really like this quote that Teresa gave, where she says, I like the level of reporting and insight Sojern gives me. I can see where the bookings are coming from, and it's clear that Sojern fishes where the fish are biting. Those markets have been our biggest. And that's really, like I was talking about, it's that identifying the audience. Where's your biggest markets? How do we get those biting? And it's really through that programmatic advertising. So the last part of the funnel, everyone's favorite part, the lower funnel. This is where the booking happens. This is where that direct booking comes. And this I really think is where there's another challenge for travel marketers. So here you have somebody who knows what they want and they're ready to make a purchase. So how do you ensure that that purchase happens, that they book with you? I mean, I really think this is essentially what all of programmatic is working to do, is throughout the funnel to nurture them, to ensure that they book directly directly with you by having relevant advertising that is about you, right? Not about a third party, and really captures who you are. And so I think this is where I think hoteliers, if again, remember we talked about how programmatic can be complementary to SEM, right? It's part of a whole package. And so for this part at the lower part of the funnel, I think it's really, programmatic is really effective to drive people to your website, but you need to make sure that your website is built to convert. So all of these advertisements, right, you're doing your search engine marketing, and then people get to your website and they should be able to book in 2 or 3 steps. They should have all the information they need, and everything should be around capturing that booking. And that's really how you make sort of a full system backed by programmatic work, is having a great website that is converting and making that process as easy as possible for people to purchase. So what I hope we've seen throughout this webinar is not just like what programmatic is. I think that's obviously super important, how it works with our cookies and our pixels, and also how it's driven direct bookings for a lot of Sojern clients. But I also hope that one of the things that I think is the most exciting thing about programmatic is the way that it is mapping more and more onto that complex traveler path to purchase, that no longer can we just sort of like advertise into the wind and hope that people book with us, but really thinking through how to reach travelers where they are with content tailored to them. That is a way to engage with people, to stay top of mind with people, and really is the future of advertising as we see it. So the last thing that I just want to do before we get into the Q&A is, because I mentioned a little bit about what Sojern's offering is, I just want to give a brief overview of it. So what we do for all the people that you saw and all of our great clients is we offer Sojern's RevDirect platform. Because here's what you're thinking. You probably went through the programmatic webinar and you're like, great, yeah, I would love to serve real-time ads custom to my property to everybody who's interested in me. Like, that sounds very easy to do. I'll just tap into my infinite supply of budget to create custom ads and do all of this. Well, the good news, and I think what makes Sojern really unique, is the model by which we do this for boutique hoteliers. So we have a truly pay-for-performance model. So what that means is we have the data partners, and we have and more importantly, the data science, so that we know when people are really interested in your destination or in your property, and we will do the bidding. There's no upfront cost for you for that. There's also no upfront cost for the ad creative. We do that in-house, and then we serve the ads on your behalf. And then it is only after a guest has completed their stay that we make a commission off of that guest. So that's why it's pay for performance, because it's only after a guest completes a stay based on the advertising that we drove that there's even any commission. So I think it's a really cool model. And one of the things I really like to do is I get to write a lot of the case studies, and so I get to sort of hear from the clients like what they like about us and what they like about RevDirect. And I think one of the things that has most stuck out to me is the way that people, the way it was described once is, we've got skin in the game, right? Because we're fronting all the upfront costs. If we're not successful for our hotelier clients, then nobody's successful. And so it's a really like a true partnership that we have. And so I think that's really exciting and really cool about what we do. So I want to thank you guys all for your attention, for coming, and hopefully we've moved a lot of people out of the I have no idea what you're talking about, at least slightly up to the I'm familiar. And we'll get through some questions to hopefully make sure everybody moves up even one more rank. But before I get to your questions, I have a question for you. So my lovely assistant Scott is going to give you another poll. What we're interested to hear is what kind of future webinars or educational topics are you guys interested in hearing? So we love speaking with and helping to educate hoteliers on a variety of issues, and we'd love to hear what you guys are interested in hearing more about. So if you could just take some time to answer some of those questions, that would be awesome. We've got a poll going now. And I will pull up some of these questions so we can get going. All right. Cool. Thank you so much. It seems like a lot of people are interested in search engine marketing. We have a few questions about that. So that's great. And some marketing attribution. So we're working on some stuff around that too. And we can talk more about that in the future. So I have some questions coming in. So let's go ahead and get through some of them. We won't have time to get through all of them, but I'll try and reach out afterwards if we don't have time. So one of the first questions that we have is, how do you know that someone's in market for a destination, right? How do we know that? We talked about the identifying an audience is the first step in programmatic. So there's a number of different ways. A lot of it comes from, at the end of the day, the data partners that we have. So we work with people and companies in air, hotel, cruise, car, tourism, right? We have all of these really great partnerships. And so that allows us to understand and see when people are doing a lot of these different searches and bookings. So we take this data, and that is what we use. Our data science team spends thousands of hours coming up with algorithms to find out, using all this data, who are the people most likely to convert based on certain intent signals. And so it's really the data science that determines who's in market. Now, we did talk about, for instance, when it comes to retargeting, someone who might be considered in market for retargeting is someone who's already visited your website and done a number of searches on your website, as opposed to prospecting, where that person maybe hasn't been to your website but has been to a number of different travel websites, and because of those cookies and pixels firing, we are able to identify them as potentially being in market for you and your destination. So it's really through these data partnerships and then the science that we layer on top of it to sort of figure out who is in market for your destination. So I think I touched on this, but I just want to reiterate. So if you don't, one of the questions is, I don't have any ads or creative resources, can I still work with Sojern, or how do we do that? So yes, we create the custom ads for you. You obviously can approve them and look at them, but we do that in-house. We have an ad designer. So yeah, if you don't have the creative resources, good news, we do, and there's no cost to having those done. Again, that's part of the RevDirect platform. Who do you decide who to serve an ad to? So I want to answer that in two ways. One, I want to say no one decides, because technically it is machines, right? This sort of machine learning and these bidding that happen in real time. So it's not as if I or anyone in the data science team says, let's serve an ad to that person. It's based on these algorithms by which, right, if someone has done X number of searches within a Y number of time and previously done A, B, and C, they are more likely to convert for, right? It's this ridiculously smart and awesome data science that determines who to serve an ad to. But again, a lot of it will depend on what kind of intent signals that person has shown. And that's where the sort of customization or the sort of real-timeness of the advertising comes in for programmatic. So I hope that helps. So we are out of time. There are a few more questions, so I will try and email those answers to you. I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much for attending. Again, we'll send an email out with the answers, or sorry, with the full video recording, so you can take a look and watch later on, or send it to your clients or friends or whomever. But thank you so much. It was great chatting with you and to you today, and we'll see you at the next webinar.